think that's you actually ended up with a very interesting thing. That was my next question, discovery. Now, I think if you really look at, we have had content services, for the last so many years. It's been there, and I think, what was very interesting is that I think, earlier discussion is that what Apple did with their App Store was to be able to rate and to be able to comment and be able to do the whole, the rating of applications, so that when you come, your discovery becomes much easier. So, how are you guys doing that with Etisalat, on the discovery side?
I think quite similar, where all apps on the App Store are rated based on downloads or usage, and when a consumer goes into the App Store, what he sees is simply the top rated ones. But we went one step ahead, and again, as I told you, I wanted to have my App Store cater to the whole pyramid and not only the top. So we went and we developed this USSD interface, and this is what we market. We only market two things: one hash, 141 hash, dial one hash, 141 hash, or we have www.appzone.com or whatever, and that's it. And in hash 141 hash, as you go in, what you see is the same App Store. Instead of it being graphics, it's text. It says games, info, whatever, health, blah blah. And then if you select games, it just shows you all the top scored games with the rating like 5 stars. So the consumer can easily select and use it. So what it brought about is even a $10 handset can use it. It doesn't have to be that you need to go to you either use a smartphone or whether you need to go to a internet cafe to log on to an App Store to download a phone. And then the app, based on whether it is a subscription or it is you can have a subscription-based app where you get SMSs, as like an info service. If you do something like one time, there's a one-time charge. And if it's a download, because we also have download apps in our App Store, then you can have app push and you can download, but then that is handset limited. But everybody can use the SMS or the MMS-based apps. So that is where we found that the idea is to look at the whole pyramid rather than not only the top of the pyramid, because the bigger chunk is the bottom of the pyramid.
I think that's actually summarizes very much on the whole discovery component. Anything in Philippines on the discovery at this time? Or?
So I come from a different perspective. Right? I actually just joined Smart.
You come from
Yahoo.
From Yahoo. So what's I think you guys are the best on this whole thing.
So coming from that perspective and building a new app store, it's really more about socializing the apps with you guys. So Anthony, I think, will probably agree with this. And it's using the social graph as well. So today we know that the first sort of social network is your address book on the phone. Or probably you can also tie in or merge social networks, so Facebook, Twitter, the different social networks out there, Yahoo. And with this, once you purchase an app, if you're able to actually socialize that with your entire social graph, then the discovery becomes much easier, much more relevant for your friends. So if you see that Mitch bought a Angry Birds games app, more or less that will incline you to actually buy an Angry Birds games app as well. So it's I guess a different train of thought. It's one thing to have ratings and reviews, but it's another thing to actually be able to leverage your social graph and be able to socialize that within the network and off network. So it's a vicious cycle.
I think that's an excellent point. There's some takeaway for me there.
Okay, so I want to open up again. I'm sure there are a lot of questions. Anthony?
Not used to not having microphones. Thanks. One of the things we're looking actively at is applications that sit in the cloud. This is nothing you download on your phone. An example would be, we talked about it yesterday, an auspicious timing application, for example, which is just something sitting in the cloud going, oh, now I need to send this person an SMS and charge them for it. Another example that we're working on is SMS Community, where basically you install the app on your user space, it's in the cloud. You take your 10 friends from your social graph, you get a short code for them, you send an SMS to the short code, it goes to all 10, somebody responds to it, it goes to all 10. That would sit in the cloud. It would be socialized, as we just talked about. It's a different way of looking at apps, and it's a way of looking at apps, Facebook-type model that I haven't seen our industry actually talking about. But it could potentially give the biggest rewards. For example, if you looked at this SMS group application, you give it to a developer, you say to them, look, we've got this idea, should be fine, you write it as an app. In fact, we'll write it as an app and we'll give it to you. The key thing we want to do is we want to make public how much money you've earned from it. Because if you look at iPhone, etc., the hype is in the device. Right, so if we're going to be successful, the hype is not going to be in the device. The hype is probably not going to be in the apps themselves or the App Store themselves. But if you can take the revenue share, if you can take one element, like Crazy Frog, right? Everybody remembers how much money Crazy Frog earned. They remember Crazy Frog because it earned so much money and it was completely annoying. But this is potentially the opportunity that we as an industry have to, through good PR, etc., socialize. Here we have a partner, 3 guys from school wrote an application, dropped it on the network, they're now driving Ferraris.
Very true, Anthony. I mean, this is what I said, I am going to market the developers, right? I am going to bring the top developers out and actually make them famous in Sri Lanka. And that's going to create a larger community of developers who would believe first on this whole, because there are some who think, yeah, but I don't know how much am I going to make, how much people will use it. But then suddenly you only need, as one Crazy Frog and everybody is on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got a lot of developers who know how to write applications for devices. But if you can attract the whole open social community, for example, guys who can just sit and write a JavaScript code on a web server and drop it on your network and actually make money from it, then you are now fishing in a completely different pond.
Very true.
Actually, just a matter of interest when you talk about applications in the cloud, right? It's nothing new. It's been out there for the last 10 over years. It's just that nowadays you call it another name, cloud. When any of the mobile network first started, they have, if you recall, you send an SMS with a short code and you get some stuff on it. And there was once, sometime back when we talked about Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and that game was being played again and again. So it's kind of strange in a way that we talk about App Store on the devices, but now we're going through one whole cycle back into where we started off in the whole mobile environment as well.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that? I think that's a great. Anybody else on that?
I think the difference actually being previously we did these apps and put it out there. Now we're asking them to do the apps and put it out there. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, I think what we're creating is a much more improved discovery, subscription, usage methods. I mean, we're taking from iPhone, Android, we're learning about App Stores. We're taking from Facebook, etc., we're learning about applications. What we need to do is to put it all together. And that's, I would argue, something as an industry we're not very good at because we're too fragmented.
I think that's I think what we learned out of Apple and how they brought that whole rating and recommendations. How Amazon brought this up. I think that's what now we are bringing it into the whole the mobile, the apps, and that area. I mean, that's what you were talking from your experience on that.
But I think the other thing to look at is we're looking at bringing the mobile app store to a phone, right? When it should be actually device agnostic. So if you can actually bring in an app store and your apps run on the cloud, it can actually be on the web, on the PC, on a tablet, or on a mobile phone, then it's a much bigger audience that you're looking at.
I also want to ask a question from the audience. I think Hong Han brought this up from the developers. I think one of the key success factors is going to be how you are going to nurture and develop your developers to be able to build applications on your network. Any experience from the other operators that are here to talk about what did you do, how did you go about and help to nurture these developer communities? Any thoughts? Anybody wants to?
Sure, I'd be interested to know how Yahoo did it.
Well, right now what we're doing is for the Yahoo Applications Platform, it's really more of, we let them just use our network APIs and sort of figure out how to make money by themselves. So Yahoo hasn't gotten to a point where we actually have settlement. So we're building that probably in the next 2 years.
They are building that.
They are. I forget. They're building that probably in the next 2 years. So that's a funny thing, because when I was there, the operator was sort of something we wanted to bypass. So this year we were looking at, or they were looking at, building an ODP. They were looking at building their own virtual wallets, and later on actually going to distributors to, come up with Yahoo credits, very similar to Facebook credits. So that is actually bypassing all the operators. Today, if we can actually give Yahoo sort of a settlement engine, which is very comparable to the distribution costs for a virtual wallet, then there's no need to build that, right? So it's really working with the portals, working with the content providers to make the operator not just a dumb fight. So that's sort of something to think about, I guess.
Karthi, you mentioned about developers in the previous session. You want to say something about getting your developers? Vijay, you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Karthi. I'm from Maxi, Malaysia. Okay, there's two interesting points that we did in Malaysia. We recently launched our own version of an app store. We call this the One Store. We tried opening up for both individuals as well as foreign companies, foreign individuals as well as foreign companies and SMEs. I think for the locals, what we did was we already have a strong alliance with the local developer communities. Maxis, we organize every other month sessions with the community developers. We know them by name actually. Okay, no, we know their credibility. So what we did was to inspire them into coming up with these applications. We gave them 100% revenue share for a short period. So that really excited them to come with new applications. Well, this is just a short period for a 1 year kind of a jump start kind of thing. On a separate mode, what we are doing is, obviously when you start, we need some applications, right? So what we did was, we went with another company and localized it into Malaysian market. We made some changes and got the top 3 apps, featured apps, and also paid apps being listed there.
Yeah. Thank you. I think I want to ask another question from the operators who are here. I think we talked about revenue share. So how many of you are here giving 100% of your revenue to the developers? I know other than Maxi is at the start. What about 70% revenue? How many of you are here giving? I know Etisalat is doing, M1 is doing 70%. Anybody else? 50%. 50%. Over 30% or less than 50%. I know it's. So I think the key here is that I think that's where I think we talked about it. If you really want to be able to develop a community and be able to kind of generate that, I think you need to look at what your revenue model is going to be.
That's another answer for your question. You cannot be shy to share your revenues. And if you do, they don't see value.
So I think these are some of the takeaways. So I think we are just coming to the end of the session. Couple of minutes more.
Yeah, we have 10 minutes more actually.